Hello everyone, welcome. This is Jim with another update. It's been a little while. I'm not sure what I'm going to say today. I have a few things on my mind, but I'm going to go extemporaneous, so who knows. I just wanted to have some reflections. This is September, end of September. October 1st is kind of a milestone. It'll be 2 years since I adopted some changes like fasting and intermittent fasting into my life. As of October 1st, that'll be 2 years ago. And coincidentally, it will be October 1st is also 1 year for me. It'll be my 1 year carniversary of adopting the carnivore diet. So it seems like a time to reflect a little bit with this passing of the year mark. I thought I would just think back, it was 2 years ago. For whatever reason, I looked like this. I found this photo. I'm going to put up this this photo. I took it in March, or excuse me, I think May of 2016, and it was a visa photo. I needed to go down to Brazil, and I needed a visa, and I took this photo, and obviously, there's a facial change, a lot of bulk is gone. My contours of my face have changed now, and but beyond that, there's also, you can just see when I look at it, what I see is an unhappy person, not in the best health, not on a good path. And I thought I'd share that. I found it recently, and I don't think I've ever shared it before, but just in a way of marking what 2 years, that's over 2 years ago, but that's the kind of transition that we're talking about here. What made me start this? I've recounted this story before, but I don't know. It was just I'd totally given up back in 2016. At that point, I was convinced that it was impossible for me to lose weight and keep it off. I had given up on that. I tried many times by exercising real hard, restricting calories, eating a low-fat diet. These were the main, what I thought were the approaches that everyone was supposed to take if you wanted to lose weight. And they never really worked well for me at all in the long run. It just led to some frustration. And I finally I threw in the towel and just said, well, I'm going to be fat all my life. And so back then, when I started this journey 2 years ago, again, I thought it would be impossible that I'd be sitting here today, less than half the size I was then, talking and making a video advising people, recounting my story and giving recommendations for how other people might want to change their lives for the better. That surely, I would have bet anything that would be impossible. Yet here I am today making this video and looking back, reflecting on these 2 years. And with the opposite, what I think is impossible now, what I see is impossible, is to ever relapse or to ever go back. I'm not going to be the guy in that photo anymore. why do I say that confidently? Well, it's because the changes I've made are fundamental changes in lifestyle. They're permanent changes, changes that I'm not likely to change. I don't want to change. The changes I made, which are mainly, let's face it, they are eating one meal a day. I think the things that make it for me impossible that I would ever have a weight issue again is the eating once a day and having given up carbs and sugar. I'm now on a carnivore diet and I'm totally happy with that. Worst case scenario, I might have some carbs again in my diet, I guess, but I would never eat more than once a day. I would never go back to sugar or seed oils or processed foods, and I'm perfectly fine with that, saying that, and I'm 100% confident of that. There's just nothing, no draw for me anymore in that lifestyle. So, yeah, I'd say it's impossible because I've been maintaining now a year, excuse me. I hit my goal a year ago, my initial goal, and since that time I drifted down even like 15 pounds under that initial goal. And I've just been flat out maintaining within a 5-pound zone for a good 4 or 5 months. And that it is what it is. I'm not doing anything extraordinary. It's just, this is what I am now. This is the new reality. This is the new me. And I'm happy with it and comfortable with it. So having said all that, I went from impossible that I could ever lose weight to now I think it's impossible that I'm ever going to have a relapse and be in that unhealthy state again. So having said that, I thought I would just maybe reflect on what the key changes were for me. And I've said all this before, but maybe it'll come out a little differently right now. For anybody looking to make these fundamental changes, what were the most important things for me? And I would just say it was the change to everything that we talk about. When I talk about fasting or intermittent fasting or one meal a day, I put all those things under the heading eating less often, because that is frankly what I call it, eating less often. And to me, all of the weight loss success and maintaining weight loss revolves around eating less often. And it started with a bang. I don't know how I did it, but I've recounted the story. This process started, I thought, first I tried my normal things, weight, calorie restriction and low fat, and it was limited success with it. It was going nowhere really. And lo and behold, I decided to try to fast for one day. I was going to fast for one day. Why? I don't know. Just kind of desperation, I guess. That fast ended up going for 2 weeks. And at that time, I would have said, that's impossible. I didn't know I could do a day. It ended up going for 2 weeks. And during that fast, I had some life-changing events happen. I found the book by Dr. Fung, The Obesity Code, and that just was like, it opened my mind. as to the importance of eating less often. I knew when I read that book that it was pointing me in the right direction, and and it made me realize why previous attempts to lose weight never did work, why most diets don't work, because they don't emphasize enough eating less often. And until you do that, you're just letting insulin rule the day. You're letting your body just stay in a fat storage mode for long periods of time. Obviously, for losing weight, you need to not be in fat storage. You need to be in fat burning mode. And most people never emphasize that or spend the time to jump into fat burning. And when I read that, I was on this fast, this 2-week fast, and I decided when I ended the fast at 2 weeks that I was going to only eat once a day, because that would really limit my eating window, my fat storage would only be a limited window, and then I'd have a lot of time to be fat burning. And that was fundamental right there. And here I am today, 2 years later. I still eat 1 meal a day, even though I'm not trying to lose weight. It was just successful for me, and for many reasons, it's just preferred now. Mike at KetOMAD had a recent video where he said, he had a nice alliteration, simplicity, satiety, and I forget the other one. There was 3 S's. But for those reasons, I stick with it because it just works. There's no reason for me to ever eat more. It just is the way I'm going to stay. I've tried to eat more often, a few occasions. It felt like I was force feeding, and I didn't really. It wasn't comfortable. So I prefer just to stay with the mindset of being without food for extended period of time. Yeah, sorry for got some tickle in my throat. Eating less often. Why is it important? Well, I mentioned the fat burning versus fat storage and insulin. Frankly, it seems like we've just gone way off the reservation. The standard Western perception of eating has just gotten out of hand. The frequency of eating and the kind of stuff we're eating is just not what we're designed, what we've evolved to handle for millions of years. Our bodies are not able to handle a constant, persistent load of sugar. And it's unhealthy. And that's why we have the chronic diseases that we have in I was going to say in this country, but frankly, it's spreading around the world. Glucose is touted as the preferred fuel. It's just not true. It's the preferred fuel that has to be eliminated from our bloodstream quickly because it's toxic, because it can be toxic. I think first fructose is the number one thing that has to be eliminated quickly if you ingest it. Next is glucose. These are not preferred fuels. They are fuels that we can't store very much at all. We really have very limited storage of it. Whereas on the other hand, fat, we've got huge reserves of fat that can be used for fuel. Even a thin person with with low body fat has a lot of reserves. And why is this? Because we didn't always have a lot of fuel around, a lot of food. We didn't have the ability to just every few hours have, Twinkies and pies, Sara Lee and whatnot, So it's more a natural state to be without fuel, without food for longer periods of time. And once you adopt a lifestyle of eating less often, you find out that it just feels more natural. You can handle things better. Once you get off of the glucose roller coaster, I call it, it just feels so much better. You're not a slave to the highs and lows that presents. So I do believe it's a more natural state, certainly way more natural than what we were all raised on here. So eating less often, it works if you want to lose weight for sure, and I think it's healthier overall. And eating less often, there's different strategies. Like I said, it can be one meal a day. It could be doing extended fasts here or there. Certainly, I started off with some extended fasts in the beginning of my journey. I think within the first 6 months, I did 3 of them. I haven't done one for a long time. I think it was almost a year ago I did a 4-day fast. But it's just been one day here or there. And I do it as I feel. If I feel a need for it, if I want to go without food for a day, I will do so. Either by choice or by circumstance might dictate it, but I can fast for a day, or I can even do 2 days if I wanted to. I just haven't really had the need to, or felt like a desire to do anything more than my daily 23-hour fast for quite some time. And I think that's kind of makes sense. That I've done this one meal a day. When you do that often enough, there isn't any more the need to keep pushing further the extended fasting, because I'm what I want to say is I'm a fat burner. I probably can't get much better at it. I burn fat. I exercise. Whenever I exercise, it's always at least 12 to 23 hours fasted. So there's not much more benefit I can have by doing extended fasts. For me, it was a tool in the beginning to unlock and to open the way to break down old habits and to improve the fat burning metabolic pathways. So that's number one. The other big change, and I've alluded to, is just to change the quantity, the quality of diet. Things I'll never regret. I gave up sugar. Sugar is not part of my diet anymore, other than I still maintain a little bit of sugar in some chocolate that I have for dessert. I have a few grams of sugar in some chocolate. But yeah, all the packaged foods, processed foods. And I've resisted trying to stay away from being someone who preaches a dogma, a dietary dogma. You got to do this, you got to do that. I try not to set up for myself or for anybody else to preach any specific dietary dogmas. But in a general sense, what I would say, what I would recommend is to go in the direction of de-emphasizing, well, first of all, I would recommend some things. Processed foods, especially the highly processed foods. All foods are processed to an extent, even the meats I eat. Some of them, bacon has some processing, certain sausages are processed. Foods have some degree of processing, but certainly go for minimally processed foods. Foods that come directly from plants or animals with minimal processing. Now, I've strayed away from fruits and vegetables. I really don't, that's not part of my diet anymore. You don't have to do that, but I would say keep the processing light. If it's in a package with a bunch of ingredients, it's going to include industrial oils and sugar. I can almost guarantee it. That is the stuff I would stay away from and not recommend. It's not natural, it's man-made, and it's not healthy, and it's addicting. It's created by companies that want to sell you a lot of food. And they spend a lot of time tweaking the ingredients and textures to make it hyper palatable, something that you're just not going to want to stop eating. Just stay away from that stuff. Stick with whole foods that are not processed, and so that eliminates. I mean, to me, I've eliminated the grains. They are so highly processed. I don't care any kind of a grain, wheat, whole wheat, whatever. It just really, it's just it delivers such a glucose load. It's just, I would get rid of that from your diet. Stick with, if you want to have some fruit or some vegetables, stick with a non-starchy kind. I mean, this is the only general guidelines I would give. I would say certainly if you're suffering from being obese or other chronic illnesses, you might want to just toss all that stuff in and go to an elimination like a carnivore diet, because you'll be amazed at what you might be able to achieve by doing that. People are healing themselves in this fashion, and then maybe once they've found a better place for themselves and some healing, that maybe they want to incorporate some foods back in. But if you're healthy and you don't seem to be, you tolerate fruits or vegetables, I would just say go for it. My only recommendation would be to de-emphasize it, the carbs, as much as possible. Rather than 50-60% of your diet, I would just make it much, much lower, and eat more from the animal foods. There's nothing wrong with meat, saturated fat, eggs, dairy is tolerable. I can tolerate it. I choose not to. I can have a little bit here and there, but I just try to stay away from all that stuff as much as possible. So eat unprocessed food. This was the second biggest thing I think that affected my success on transforming myself, is to just getting away from the man-made foods, highly processed foods like sugar and grains and processed foods, anything in a package. That combined with eating less often, putting those two things together was just the key. the key. I say that was what lit the match for my change. Other than that, I mean, exercise is a very good thing, and it was key to help me feel good, and to it helped me with the fat burning. I think my fasted running, I think, was important. Not everyone has to run. You can do whatever you want to do. Run or do calisthenics or walk, do resistance training. My only advice on exercise would be don't be extreme on any of it, because again, to just try to do enough to be healthy, and to get some benefit from it, but extreme amounts of time or extreme feats of strength or endurance are not, I don't think, helpful in the long run. Doing enough really feels good, and it makes you feel good. It makes you be able to breathe and participate in life in many different ways. But exercise is good. It helps with also de-stressing, which is the next thing. You got to keep stress out of your life, and if exercise is the thing that helps you achieve that, great. Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's just some hobby. But stress and sleep I guess were the final things I would say. I didn't, sleep has kind of come natural for me. I haven't had a lot of trouble sleeping. I know when I gave up the sugar and the grains and the processed foods, I slept better because I didn't have digestion issues anymore. All of the years I thought what was giving me heartburn at night, an upset stomach, and an acidic feeling in my stomach, causing me to take Tums or different antacids or Alka-Seltzer. I thought it was the grease and fried or meat. Actually, I eat now more grease or meat than ever. It wasn't that stuff. It was the sugar and processed foods. And actually, I think for me, it was a lot of foods based on tomatoes. Like I would eat a lot of pizza with tomato sauce and lasagna. Tomatoes, I had tomatoes all in everything. And I don't think I missed tomatoes because it didn't sit well with me. It gave me always a bad feeling after eating it. But anyway, I don't know what other reflections. I mean, that's sort of all I wanted to say. Looking back, those are the fundamental things, the two big ones. Just to repeat, eating less often and going for minimal processing of your food. However you choose to eat, just avoid the processed foods. And I can't leave out the thing I discovered this year is the sun. And I mentioned this and many times. the sun had made a difference this year for me. I seem to tolerate it, and a lot of people say it has to do with diet, which is the reason I force myself to test it. Whether it's elimination of seed oils or the carnivore diet, I'm not sure. But man, the sun felt great this year, and it was like a rejuvenating aspect. It seemed to infuse me with just a wonderful feeling. It seemed to give me some healing. I told you my skin seemed to heal in the sun. It seemed to make me feel better. People had told me I look better. I love it, and I now am faced with trying to find a way to incorporate the sun into my life on a frequent basis, which is a bit of a challenge where I live, because now I'm in the fall and the sun is low and a lot of gray skies. So I don't know. There'll be some trips that I'm going to make, hopefully a couple of trips, maybe to a warm climate during the winter months will get me through. I don't know, maybe there's different kinds of lamps or lights that can provide a different spectrum, infrared spectrum. I don't know if those work or not, but I might be willing to give that a try. But the sun is something I think is healthy to be in the sun. Not to overdo it again, but good sun exposure is just, it's a nice, pleasant feeling. So yeah, I mean, another thing for me going forward is to stay motivated and to look for new challenges. You know, I found over the past, this summer, a little bit less motivation. Like I noticed it during my running. Well, first of all, one time I on a long run, I quit on the run. Which I normally took pride never doing. I decided I don't feel like it, and I just stopped the run short, after, let's say, 3 miles. Once I did that, then this quitting voice in the back of my mind, it would surface all the time. Whenever I go out for a normal run, then this voice would say, wouldn't it feel good to, let's just call it a day. You don't need to run so far. And so I developed a little bit of this quitting mentality. Now, I didn't quit all the time, but I had to fight it off. And overall, I think there's just a little less of, I backed off of my running. I didn't want to get too extreme with it. I run now typically like 3 times a week. I'm not doing the big mileages anymore. I'm not going to be shooting for any marathons. I'm going to stick with like 3 races a year, maybe 1 half marathon a year. I want it to be part of my life, but not a dominant part of my free time spent running. But I need to find something else, some kind of outlet for something, some challenge, maybe in a creative field of some kind. I need to find some outlet for creativity, or for my idle time when I'm not working or making videos. So I guess that's my challenge going forward, is to find some additional interests. So I think I've said enough today, and I'm gonna let this go just with these reflections that I've given. I hope it wasn't too boring, and that it was refreshing. Maybe people that are relatively new, gives you a perspective on me and my channel, and maybe just for those that have been following my journey, just freshen up with these latest perspectives. I hope if anyone has questions, as always, I welcome them. In the comments, or reach out to me on Twitter or by email. I'm happy to share. I don't know, this channel isn't going to ever be real large, but I'm just trying to put my story out there and see if it's valuable to anybody, can help anybody. And if I can help anybody, I'd be glad to try. So good luck, everyone, and good success on your journeys. And until next time, Jim signing off. Take care.